Afternoon, welcome to the webinar. My name is Chris Hall, and I have got the wonderful Ria joining me from Izango again. So first of all, to everyone, welcome to the webinar. And Ria, thank you for joining me again today. It's really good to see you.
Thank you for having me, Chris. Like always, it's been great having you and being with you and talking about a portal with you. It's always been great. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And look, to everyone, today what we're going to do is we're going to get a bit more kind of practical today and talk about how we can do quotations for NDIS participants. Now, all of you may be at different stages in terms of how you do quotes. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you some ways that I'll put my hand up. I've done it in the past quite manually. And for transparency, when it comes to the Izango way, I, in the last couple of months, started using Izango in my own NDIS business on the Central Coast in New South Wales, and my mind just went in terms of what's possible in terms of generating quotes and service agreements and having it all in one system, which, the more I kind of get into the client management system world, which I've been in for many years, but the more I go down the rabbit hole, I realize that there's an opportunity to have all of your data points, all of your files, all of your information in just one place, because otherwise it gets really, really messy. So yeah, we're going to be quite practical today. I'm going to try and zip it as much as I can and ask Ria some questions. And this will, I hope, provide a lot of insight in terms of how you might use a system like Izango, or indeed, whatever the system you choose going forward, right? So what I'll do to start off with is, Ria, I'm just putting the PowerPoint slide up. Can you see that okay?
Yes.
Fantastic, awesome. So let me start with the kind of the setting the scene bit. First of all, people often ask me, Chris, what system should I use? I've really refined this down to what you see on the screen here, which is basically, I recommend Izango as a client management system to do everything from rostering, HR, billing, payroll, SIL, house management, incident management, etc. And again, just speaking to that, I've been using that over the recent months, and it's ridiculously easy to generate the billing process every week for myself. It's amazing for the payroll side of you in terms of connections with Xero. I've moved away and evolved away from manual spreadsheets and all the painful stuff. So Izango is great for that. Having said that, all of that in addition, I recommend still having a marketing and sales machine in terms of proactive generation of opportunities. So you'll still see me talking about HubSpot, Aircall, Message Media. And these are kind of the ways to proactively get the inquiries in. But the way to think about Izango and some of the things that we're going to talk about today is, once you've actually collecting participant details and service agreements and doing quotes, that's the line in the sand where you need to start, not just having it in HubSpot, but then getting it into Izango. So I hope that that makes sense conceptually, but I'll explain that more as we go. So what's our agenda? We're going to keep it, short, sharp, and shooting from the hip today. I'm going to start off with the 3 painful ways to create quotes, and then again we'll show you hopefully a more enlightened way. So the manual way, number 1, is that we all know that there's the pricing arrangements and price limits, which is more dearly known as the price guide. Now, in theory, you could go to the price guide, look it up every time, find your item code and your price rate, and you could do a quote based on that. I have seen some providers in their service agreements quite literally just put a list of the codes and say, hey, we'll bill you as these things come up. And that's really quite a common practice. But as I've spoken about in many webinars, I do not recommend that at that high level, because you need to tell your support coordinators and your participants an estimation of your services, because otherwise it can fall apart and you don't have enough funds and you run out and all the dramas begin. Technique number 2 is to download what's called the NDIS support catalog. And that catalog is indeed an Excel spreadsheet that you can get from the NDIS website. And it's 652 lines long. It will tell you all the rates in the different states and territories. But it's such a mega spreadsheet that it would be very easy to get lost and sometimes accidentally select the wrong support item number. So, got dangers. Technique number 3 is to create your own template. I've been there, I've done that. And that could be like selecting the 10, 20 items that you typically do. That could be in Excel. A schedule of supports or quote could look something like this. And you're very much typing up manual notes And yeah, you can have the item code, the description, the rate in there, but you could forget to change it in July. You could muck up your formulas because fundamentally, when it comes to calculating the number of hours, you got to sort of go into each field and do some maths and be really good at Excel. And I find that, there's that kind of human fallibility that's a real problem. I've made mistakes myself, and I consider myself good at Excel and good at numbers. So I feel like those three ways we may well all be doing. But there is a way that can really transform things. So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about basically how end to end. First of all, there are ways using system like Izango to actually capture the lead, right? So you can capture the participants' details like you see on the screen here. This is actually in Izango form. That means that the data or the data, the potato, the patata will exist in Izango straight away. And because it's in the right place, it means that you can, at the click of a button, create a participant. And all of this is radically reducing the administrational time that is part of the intake and onboarding process. In addition to that, all of these various data points can be feeding into subsequent documents like support, care plans, etc. And this then starts to then open up the Pandora's box, the candy shop of what's possible in terms of like, wow, I can just use this data point in this place and that place, and it all just becomes way more effective because it's in the one system and all these things feed each other. So again, we're about to kind of do some screenshots momentarily of like the way that Izango works, but just so I can get a sense of where everyone's at, let me just publish a quick poll, and on the right hand side of the screen, if you could just please select the answer that you've got. So the question is, how are you doing quotes, right? And some people might be saying I'm not doing quotes. So it could be just that your service agreement is completely generic and says we'll bill you for whatever we do. Some people are doing it manually. It may be one of the three techniques or some variation of that we just did there. And indeed, some people may be quoting from your CMS. Your CMS means your client management system. It could be Izango, could be another system, but either way, you get the idea that you're quoting directly from there. So please put your answers in there on the right. I can see them coming in right now, and so far about 75% of people are doing quotes manually. I suppose that's why you're here, right? To learn about some of the ways. That's a really common trend, by the way. We've got one lucky winner there saying not doing quotes at all. And again, you might want to refer to some of the other webinars because that can get you in trouble in terms of funds running out. And so what I'll do now is I'll just close that poll for the sake of showing the results to everyone. You can see on the right there that very nearly 80% of people are doing quotes manually. So the good news is you're in the right place. And what I'm going to do now is go back to that PowerPoint. I'm going to show you some screenshots from Izango. Think about it like doing a quote from a client management system. And what I'm going to do is then basically ask Ria a bunch of questions around how it works, essentially. So Ria, can you see the PowerPoint again?
Yes.
Fantastic. So I guess like to take this concept of lead tracking a bit further, this is another screenshot of what the lead management function looks like in Izango. Could you just talk to that little kind of subheading thing that says quote there? Is that what is that quote function in terms of the relationship to lead tracking?
So basically, when you have got a lead or a new participant coming through from your website, that is when Izango integrates it with your website, and all the leads coming from there do get directly input in your CMS. So you, in the activity part, you can log in all the activities you're having, be it any kind of conversations or any kind of admin thing you're doing for the person. So that conversation remains at just one place. And the next is details. In that details part, how Chris showed you a form which your client has been putting in, that is the part where you will see all the details. And quotations here is a place from where you can send quotations from your potential client. So this person is currently your potential client, where you can send this quotation. So once it is accepted by them, that is when you go in, you create a service agreement, and the accepted quotation will automatically populate to your service agreement. And how
Oh,
we
wow. That's
create, yes,
incredible.
yes.
Right.
And how we
Right.
create a quotation is also there. Like you can just click on add button, it will pop up a questionnaire for you to fill, be it their NDIS number and
Yep.
what kind of support you want to give, and what hours, or maybe you're giving it for day, you're giving it for evening, night, and what is the provider travel you're going to charge. All that will populate automatically, because we do populate the NDIS price guide and give you in the CMS.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
if you,
I mean,
yeah.
sorry, go ahead. I've got a few questions, but please tell me. Yeah.
That's fine. And also it will automatically populate the price based on your agreement start date and end date, whatever you have input in the system.
Okay, and I think we've got some screenshots of that next. I mean, just in terms of that ability to do a quote, like I've recently had some inquiries where there was some more complex care required, and it required specialist training of the support worker. And one of the questions I had for the coordinator was, oh, in order to do that complex task that was mentioned in terms of personal care, that was an example of high intensity supports, and this high intensity supports is an example of the $70 something per hour. And you know, that level of detail of being on the same page, like initially as a provider, I might go, oh, surely it's the whole 6 hours of the shift that's high intensity. But then the coordinator comes back and goes, no, you can do it for 2 hours out of the 6, but the rest of it needs to be the normal rate. And you go, okay, cool. So that level of detail, you need to kind of nut it out, don't you, with people, and have basically, you know, 2 hours at high intensity, 4 hours at this normal rate.
Yes.
And, you know, getting on the same page is crucial, because I love that quote from whatever the movie was: if you make assumptions, if you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. You know, it's so true. And I think also, like, you know, not everyone is necessarily as good at the maths side of things, so having something that can produce the answer is powerful, so that a coordinator can look at your quote and look at the remaining funds in the budget, and then, you know, confirm that it's going to work. Yeah, so like that's important. And also another reality that I think we'll talk to in a second is that, you know, NDIS plans will go typically for either 12 months or 24 months, but they're not always consistent in terms of the duration. And, you know, again, true story from someone we brought on recently. She had a new plan, and it was a 12-month plan. But by the time we started services, it was already 2 weeks in. So I'd kind of, I guess, like to, you know, draw the attention of everyone to that quote start date and end date at the top of the screen there. Because in that example I'm talking about, we had to provide a quote for 50 weeks of the year, not 52. So could you just tell us a little bit about what start and end date means in terms of the result of the quote?
So yeah, sure. So as you said that you had to provide it for 50 weeks and not 52. So that is how you can add your start date and end date. So based on just that start and end date, all the calculations which are done below will be occurring. So for example, if you've just added there 2 weeks and you were sending a quotation for 2 weeks, and say in case you're giving support, you have to give assistance with self-care activity standard, and you put in the day rate, and you put say 65.47 is the day price, and you want to give 5 hours weekly. So this is, and you're sending the quotations for 2 weeks. That is when the calculations will be done based on 2 weeks only. And once this is done, you can then send a service agreement, because when you send quotation, you will have to send a new service agreement so that your participant is agreeing to it.
Yes. Okay. So basically, start and end date will ring fence the quote, so it only sits within that period. Yeah, very cool. I mean, that if we look at the next, I'll go back to that one in a second, but you've also got this cool function of weekly, fortnightly, monthly, and yearly. So I'll paraphrase it and tell me if I'm on the money here. So like, if we did a quote from the 1st of May to the 31st of May, forgive my maths here, let's say there's 5 weeks in it. I haven't got a diary in front of me. But if there were 5 weeks and I put in, you know, 5 hours weekly, what's then the output?
So that would be, say, 65.47 into 5 hours weekly. And if it is 5 weeks, then it would be into 5.
Right,
So that's
brilliant.
how the system is coded for, and that's how you get the output there. So now it might not be exactly 5 days. What we're doing is based on days as well. So that a day might fall prior to a week, and then it would fall, say for example, in the current going on week, it would just have 2 days, right? But the next week it
Yeah.
has 7 days. So it is also pro rata based, where it would pick up the whole 1 week and also the 2 days which went by.
That's really interesting. And that's so relevant because plan end dates are very much date driven. They're not, they
Yes.
don't go neatly to the end of a Sunday very commonly. And then equally, like the number of times manually that I've got out the calendar and with my mouse, I've given myself repetitive strain injury by going 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 7 weeks. And I've counted like 57 weeks before manually, and all of a sudden my finger's hurting and I'm wondering why. So yeah, to have a system that can just straight away spit out the number of weeks, that's that's powerful. And then the whole fortnightly thing, that can happen too. That's a real case where people can say I only need you every 2 weeks or once a month on this date. So I guess like it says add new as well. I'm assuming that within the quote function, well, I know you can, but like, can you basically add lots of different line items, and some of them might be weekly, some of them might be fortnightly according to the care package?
Yes.
Yeah, right. That's really interesting. One of the functions of Izango that's really powerful from a billing point of view that I'd like to highlight is that when it comes to raising a shift, so if I just make a quick rabbit hole diversion here, see how you've got like Monday to Friday day shift rate. I know from using the system that when you raise a shift, you all I have to do is select that, for example, right? And well, actually, no, better than that. I just need to select the one on the left there that says assist with self-care standard, and then the system is automatically going to translate that, isn't it, to whether it's evening, afternoon. Right? Tell me about that, because that's really interesting.
So when I'm not sure what other CMS does, but with Izango, what you would have to do is you just need to add the support item name, and the support item number will be picked up automatically on basis of whether it's falling on Saturday, it's Sunday, public holiday, day rate, evening rate, night rate, sleepover rate, be it anything. So that is picked up automatically by system. That too with the correct support item number. You don't even have to go remember the number. You just need to remember the support item which you have to provide them. That's the name. So basically you just need to know assistance with self-care activities. You just put that in, and after that system takes care of what line item, what is the time it is falling, whether it's falling on public holiday. If it is falling on public holiday, the rate would be picked up of is public holiday. If it's a weekend, it would be for Saturday and Sunday rate. Falling on whether it's falling on Saturday or Sunday. Similar is the case with night rate, evening rate, morning rate, everything that way. So you basically don't need to remember the line item numbers. Yeah.
That's amazing. And even here again, like one of the things about the guide and that Excel catalog is that you can get lost in a maze of item numbers, and you got what was it, temporary transfer payments, the TTP or whatever it is, and high intensity versus standard. Like you can get lost in a maze, whereas this is just kind of more plain understandable English. Assistant to self-care standard done. And like in plain English, is it? So yeah. So the way I look at it is, you have to, as a provider, go into the granularity of whether it's a day shift or an evening rate when you're doing a quote. That's necessary. But what we're making here as a distinction is that once the quote and service agreement is done and you're off and running, the shift raising process is very streamlined accordingly, and that feeds through to billing again automatically. Yeah. And I know not all systems do that. I won't comment on other ones specifically, but I know that a lot of them you have to like select the correct rate when you're raising a shift, and that's actually a risk because your rostering person may not have an appreciation of the price guide.
Yes, and even with Izango, people can go and create their own support items as well for the participants who they are offering their own rates rather than what NDIS is giving them.
Oh, that's cool. Right, so then could you do those custom rates inside of the quote too?
Yes, you can.
Oh, very nice. I suppose the other next screenshot I want to talk about is the idea again of activity tracking. So, it's nice to see the progression between the various stages and the things that are being input and happening, etc. So that's nice to see the progression and also the date and timestamps, because you can very easily, see that maybe a week's gone by and you need to follow up, etc. So
Yes.
that's powerful to have that there. What does the follow-up function do there in terms of date and time on the right there?
So basically the follow-up stands for in case you've had a call with client and the client maybe has asked you to call maybe after 2 days. So that is when you can put in the follow-up date for the days after 2 days, and system will give you a notification or an email saying you've got a follow-up, you need to call this client.
Oh, great. So it's kind of like a task creation. You have to reminder.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. Once you kind of you mentioned about, quotes going inside service agreements. Service agreements, there's so many ways to do it, but like you may have them in a Word document or whatever now. But in terms of Izango, I know that you can customize your service agreements and you can bring in all of the text that you might need from your standard service agreement. But could you tell us a little bit about some of the things we see on the screen here? Because we've got various data points on the left-hand side. The stuff on the right, I would call that a placeholder, i.e., the actual technical field name. Could you talk us through how, you do the standard stuff on the left and then also the customizable fields on the right?
So basically, it's just you need to put in the basic data, like if the participant is already an existing participant for you, then the system picks up every kind of detail like participant name, date of birth, be their emergency contact, coordinators details. But if it is coming through a lead, there's a specific data that has been sent in that lead form. But after that, once you've put in through the system has taken the dynamic data points like name, company logo, company address, NDIS number. All those are dynamic variables. So when you're creating your service agreement, you would have a certain text in your service agreement where there would be a placeholder for your participant's name. That is when you just copy paste the part of participant name on your placeholder. And whenever you create a service agreement, you don't have to go write their participant's name, participant's date of birth, participant's mobile number. System picks up everything. You don't have to do that work because there's a lot more important stuff you would do rather than just typing the names in the service agreements.
The reason I've got nervous laughter right now is because I've been there and done that, and there's such a, all the jokes aside, there's such a risk, right, that you could put the wrong NDIS number, the wrong plan end date.
So the human error, it reduces the human error for you.
It really does. And also, in all seriousness, from a privacy point of view, which we're all bound by in terms of the privacy laws, it's too easy to royally muck it up and have, you could violate privacy inadvertently by putting the wrong participant name and then sharing someone else's NDIS number, and you would have violated privacy because of the human error manual creation of service agreement perspective if you do it manually. So yes, there are dangers to doing it manually, right? As well as, again, so we're talking about a little bit of initial setup, but you're leveraging your functionality so that going forward, literally data points just flow through an end-to-end process. That's that. Yeah, interesting.
And since our forte is customization, if there is any data point that has been missing but is wanted by one of our clients, we do customize that for them.
And I would very much testify to that.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh no, I couldn't agree more. Like I'm like the autistic IT guy that brings up everything, and I ask you all the questions, and I go, Ria, what can you do about this? And you go, no problem, we'll get it done. And then like you're like the magical fairy that sprinkles the IT dust, and it's just done.
That is too much to take on, Chris.
No, I mean that. Like, I've never met a CMS company that can turn around customizations as dynamically as Izango. So, like, that's really important for everyone watching because nothing bad to say about a lot of the other CMSs, but one thing I do observe is there's a lot more rigidity in those services. So, if you're looking for stuff that's bespoke and fits your exact business process and how exactly you want it, not only have you got these standard functions, but there's a bunch of that on the customization side. Let's have a look at this for a second. So this is the idea of, again, status tracking at the service agreement level. Could you just talk us through those, I guess, the things in the bottom left there? Like, what you can send things, you can sign them. What can you do when it comes to the, you can create a service agreement, then tell me about signing and sending.
Yes, so once the service agreement has been created, we don't send it directly. we give it to you in a pending state so that you can go have a look on your own, whether it is as per what you wanted, so that if there is any discrepancy, you can still go and correct it. But once you have checked it out, you verified it, you can just send it from system itself. You would not need a document management, different document management system, and you don't need to pay somewhere else for the document signage. This system does the signage as well for you. And as soon as your service agreement has been signed by them, the copy would remain with your participant. It would also remain with you. And further, whatever you've entered in the schedule of support, that would go and get integrated in your fundings automatically. You don't have to go and punch in all the fund management again. The similar is case with amazing. Like I've told Chris earlier as well, there's the few things in our service agreements like risk profiles and also the goal management. So all those things as well, as soon as your service agreement gets signed, it will get integrated to that version of the software. Chris, we can't hear you. Can't hear you. I think there's just a connection lag. Chris would be joining in a minute. Yes, Mariana, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correct. You can add your own notes as well. Chris, we can't see you.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, but we can't see you yet. But that's fine. We can go.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am so sorry. Okay, I apologize. Thanks for your patience, everyone. Houston just went down there. Don't worry, I've not crashed. It's all good. I'm still alive. So sorry about that. Jeez. Cool. Thanks everyone for the patience there. So where we were at then is that we were just looking at, we were looking at that the signing of the service agreement point of view. And like again, I've been there and done that in terms of used DocuSign, Jotform to sign things, and and they're great. I've also, as a coach, I've seen so many people do the manual signing of printouts, etc. Are there any options in terms of, like, let's imagine if you had a I'm thinking out loud here. Let's imagine you had a laptop, you're an intake coordinator, and you've got a touch screen, or you've got an iPad and you're logged on to Izango. Can you do anything so that a participant that wanted to be in person with you, can they sign the screen?
Yes, we can do that as well through Izango. So we've got both the options. You can either send it to your participant or anybody you want to send it on behalf of your participant, or if the person is just next to you and you want to get it signed while sitting there, that option is also available.
And that's so important, because when we think about the NDIS practice standards, verbally explaining a service agreement is very much what we're bound to do ethically and according to the standards, because not everyone can literally read that. You can't just kind of fob people off with a with an easy read document sometimes and think that that's good enough. Genuinely explaining it, sat next to the person, and go, are you happy now with that? We've explained it. Awesome. Here's my laptop. Here's my iPad. Please sign here. Right. Interesting. Also, I think that I believe that there's an option to sign things by just typing your name as well. Could you talk to that?
Yes.
What's that about? So, like, have I got that? I think I've got that up on the screen here. Is that demo point?
Yeah. So where you've written Chris, people would just type their name. They can choose the font they want to sign it for. Just click there and save it, and the signature part is all done.
Right. So that's relevant too from an accessibility perspective. And is there kind of like an audit trail in terms of seeing that, you sent it to someone's email on this date and they signed it at this time and that kind of stuff?
Yes, all that stays in. We've got a data log. If it is wanted by anyone, we do give it to them.
That's relevant too, because sometimes plan managers, God forbid, but in the worst case that you ever had a relationship strained with a participant and they go, oh, I never signed that agreement, then if you can demonstrate that digital trail, then that's useful,
Yes.
right? To say, well, actually, I sent it to your email address on this date and you can see that you replied back at this, time.
Yes, true.
Okay. The final thing I wanted to show on the screen before we go to any Q&A is the idea of goal management. Could you talk us through that a little bit in terms of the Izango way?
So within Izango, it's not necessary you have to do it through service agreements. There's a place where you can manage your goal separately as well. But in case you send it through your service agreement itself, whenever you attach a goal to a service agreement, you know that these two would be done by you. That is when it gets signed and we integrate to your goal management tab automatically. Again,
Nice.
you don't have to redo this work.
That's awesome. There's a concept in IT called data schemas. And because I'm ex-IT, I get this stuff. Think about it like this. You can have a piece of text or a drop-down answer, and you can put it in your Word doc, your PDF, and it can go on the metaphorical shelf and collect dust. And then every time you want to, access that little piece of text, you have to blow off the dust and grab it out and then manually put it here. But the idea of a data schema is that there is a concept, for example, goals, right? So we know it's a concept in the NDIS, but, we're not just putting a piece of text for goals inside of a service agreement.
True.
That then feeds the function. So
Yes.
just while we're here, could you speak to that idea as well? Because I know that because we've talked about it, I know you can demonstrate progression towards a goal, can't you, as well, in terms of Izango?
Yes. So within Izango, while doing the service agreement, you just put in what goal is to be achieved. But once it gets integrated to your goal management, that is when you put in the strategies you want to follow to do this goal, and then further by when do you want to do it, and you can rate it on scale of 1 to 10 of how you're going with it. And further, it is also there in the mobile app of your support workers whenever a shift is done by them, so that they could put in if there has been any progress made during the shift for the goal, they do update that. And further, there's an audit trail there. By whom did it get updated, when did it get updated, and what was updated as well. So, and you also get to see it in a graphical manner of how the goal is progressing, whether it's going ahead, going below, and what happened wrong. You are able to see all that in a graphical representation as well.
Right, and that's so relevant for, again, alignment to the practice standards and, again, the fundamental concept of goals in the NDIS. I'd also say it's quite relevant if you're doing capacity building as a provider, because you're trying to, help people in whatever their area of independence or skill development is. So I think that's really crucial. Look, I wanted to kind of focus today on this core concept of, making a quote, and then how does that feed through all the data points. And I know I'm a complete geek and I get excited very easily on this stuff, but I hope people can see that it's a way of genuinely saving yourself time. So there's the selfish benefit as an intake or manager, where you go, I get to cut my time in half, but then that always translates to a better outcome for the participant, because if you get the money stuff right in terms of being on the same page, and you can do that quickly, well, we all know that the NDIS is about relationships, but it's also about your competence, right? So if you're good at relationship building and you've got good values and you're doing it for the right reasons, and you can produce the quotes literally within, an hour of the conversation you just had, then that transactional competence is the thing that I think makes you stand out as an operator, where people kind of go like,
done
oh,
within
wow.
it can be done just within minutes. You don't have to necessarily, because the system knows everything. System is already feeded with your NDIS price guide. It's just as a layman language, what you have discussed with the participant, you just need to choose a tab, choose which day, evening rate, and things like that. Rate comes up. You choose what hours you want to give them, weekly support, monthly, yearly, and it prepares it for you. That's all.
Yes, correct. Yeah, exactly. And then when you impress people with that, then ultimately agreements can get signed quicker. You can do authentic meet and
Yes.
greets, and you might be able to literally. It also, as well as participant outcomes, it feeds the bottom line, because having the right systems in place might mean that you get the quotes and the signing up and the commencement done within a week, rather than 2 or 3 weeks, because of the manual process and the headaches. So on the right hand side, I want to go to Q&A in a second, and we welcome any question in the chat box there. On the right hand side, there is an offer that Izango have got as part of this webinar. What you've seen today is part of what they call their lead management module, the function. And it's kind of it's an add-on that's incredibly reasonably priced, and it does incredible things like you've just seen there. But fundamentally, if you wanted to not only use Izango, but that function, you can get that offer for free for 3 months by clicking on this particular link. So, it's a no obligation thing. You can book a demo with Ria or one of the team members via that link. And I'd highly encourage you to do it. I put Ria through about 4 or 5 hours of my ridiculously detailed questions, and she was able to answer all of them. So it's really worth a go. So I'd recommend that for those that are interested in checking out Izango. Just while we are letting the offer kind of be on the screen there, let me see what questions there might be. So here we go. Ruby, is the NDIS price updated every time it changes? Because yes, you're right. Typically every July it gets changed. So how's that feed into quotes, the service agreement, and then also the billing process?
So yes, it gets updated every time it is changing. There's a place there in our CRM where we upload the NDIS price guide and give you, if you are on the pro and premium part of our software. Even if in case you are on the basic platform, we do give the leverage to our clients that they just download the NDIS price guide and just upload it. It will work like a cream there. And after that, all the things done, there's an effective date there from which date it is affected for the pricing. You just put the date in there, you upload the guide, and after that date, as soon as that date comes, that new price is activated and the halt is put on the previous price guide. Perfect.
Another common question that indeed I had was on the payroll side of things. We are part of the SHADS award typically as providers, if not everyone. And within that, there are different pay points. So you can look those all up on the Fair Work wage calculator, I think it's called. And you can see what pay points there are, right? So, I pay my workers at a certain pay point. And what I do is I program in, it's very easy. You just go, right, pay point 2.2 or whatever it is. Here's the rate for this, and this. And it means the base rates, the Saturday rate, the Sunday rate, etc. And again, that automatically goes through to feed into my Xero, so that means the rate is correct. And then when it comes to July, because I think that might be a question that some of the audience might have as well, it's that easy that you just go into that pay scale template thing, and you just go, update it to the next 3% increase or whatever it is, and it just means you're aligned. So essentially, when you're on the right pro edition of Izango, they get the whole price guide sorted out for you. And then as a provider, when it comes to your individual contracts with different workers, all you do is you assign the different pay points. You might have assistants in nursing, you might have people doing just this, another one's 2.1 and 2.2. You have all of that assigned, and you just only have to update these templates one time, isn't it, in terms of payroll?
Yes, true.
Yeah.
It's just one-off when you're setting up the system, that's all.
Yeah, correct. It's very, very seamless. Some other questions. Is AI integrated into the system to speed up processes? Oh, Andrew, I like the way you're thinking.
Okay, Andrew, so it's just that what kind of processes are you looking for the speed up? That's for my first question, because AI can also be a kind of a chatbot thing, like if it is just replying notes, etc. So for notes, it is not yet in place, but we are developing it, where the system will generate certain templates for you. We are integrating that. Not done yet, but it is coming pretty soon.
Right, interesting. But also to kind of add to that, when it comes to making notes as a worker, on side of the worker app on your phone, I've tested this myself. Whether it be an Android or an iPhone, you can press the microphone button and just literally speak in your care notes, your shift notes, and so it perfectly dictates them.
So we have got speech to text implemented. So you just click on the microphone, whatever your support worker is speaking, it just gets typed and gets stored for you.
Correct. And Andrew, as well, you might be interested to know that there are different validation rules that you can do. So like you can say, basically when a shift is marked as completed, you can say, if it meets these validation rules, then automatically approve the timesheet. But if they checked in late or did this or did that or forgot to put this in, then require the administrator to manually review the submission. And again, it's controls depending on how you want to run your business. But when you meet the criteria, it means that the generation of the billing and the payslip, when they meet the criteria, it's like auto approved, should it meet the criteria. So you've got controls and automation. So I think it's kind of probably doing some of the things you might be looking for. Yes. Yes. And look, Andrew's saying, noted that AI bots are coming to help. Yeah, look, I get you. I totally agree. AI is a whole big thing. And there's this concept of not just bots, but agents, and an agent might fill a role. There's a bunch of stuff. I think that the way the direction in the industry might increasingly go is that we have chat bots and AI agents on our websites that can automatically answer questions in accordance with our policies, our procedures, and the NDIS price guide. And there's things like that that'll come. But like, anyway, that's me going off tangent. Two other questions. Miriana Barry has asked, can the quotes allow for a contingency amount for expected or estimated price increases at July 1?
So Miriana, it is, so this is something we customize for our clients. So one thing with Ezango is you don't get to use the system that is already presented to you. We have our forte in customizing the software. So any needs of our clients, we can customize and make that product look like how you want to run your business, not how the product is running, you are running the business that way. So we can customize it there for you.
Yep, great. Pepe asked about, do you have many support coordinators using the system? I know that you can, support coordination is one of the functions.
Yes, support coordination is one of the functions in the system. It is also being used by sole providers who are as support coordinators in the market, and also people who are doing support work and support coordination both. They're using our system. Yeah,
brilliant. And then for the SIL providers or people that want to go into SIL, a common constraint in some of the systems, other systems, is that they don't really have the concept of a house. So when you've got a SIL house, you need to be able to organize your roster and see what participants belong to the house and all that jazz. There's something called the accommodations module inside of Ezango for that.
Yes.
So
we've got a module for SIL providers,
Yes, exactly. There's a bunch of functions, there really are. And then again, like there's so many things that this is why I spent 4 hours with Ria. Because I had so many things to ask her. But if you do want to have a full demo with her, you're more than welcome. On the right there, it's got a little question, like if you'd like to see a demo of Ezango, you're more than welcome to book in some time with them. So if you're interested, please, please press that yes button there. The thing is I'm so pedantic that I don't recommend systems lightly. And
I
also,
know that, Chris. I know that. I know that well.
I put you through the fire. But when it comes to my sales and marketing projects that I do, I'm hand on heart, always trying to find a way to not only bring in leads for NDIS providers, which I know is my primary mission for sales and marketing, but as soon as you start collecting information and doing intake, we've got to make that a seamless process so that you operationally can get up and running, because it means nothing if you can't literally convert the lead into operational reality. So that's why I go down these rabbit holes and look into these systems and go, oh my God, look at that, you can do this. So that's really cool. Just before we we've got another 4 people there saying they'd like to to take advantage of the having a chat. And again, if you're in a similar way, you can claim that offer either through that chat that we just recorded there, or you can click on this link here. Do we have any final questions before we wrap it up? Because I wanted to kind of really keep today quite snappy. We're happy to answer any questions you've got.
Yes.
I hope everyone's found it useful, by the way. Give me some validation, please. Give me some validation. Cool. Okay. Well, look, I think we've answered all the questions. So, Ria, we'll be booking in some regular webinars to talk about, you know, things and break up the functions to different sections. So, you know, thank you for registering everyone for today. You are part of the mailing list now, so we'll let you know in about a month when we do the next webinar, and we, you know, talk about some distinctions here in terms of best practice. So Ria, thank you for coming on today. Really appreciate your time. First of all, yes, and everyone else dialing in, legend, you're awesome. Get in contact with either of us if you have any questions, and thank you for your time today. I hope you have a great day.
Anytime. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Catch you soon. All the best. Bye.